Isn't it interesting that we're talking about maybe the thing people identify with most, the texture of their own experience, the landscape of their inner mind. But you're then saying, well, this may not fully be self-generated. This might be something which you've absorbed from the past, from society, from norms, from cultures, from the way that you've compensated for past traumas, etc. Or just habits. But it brings up an interesting question, which is, okay, so who are you? Where are you in this? Are you that voice? In some ways you are, because you're inexorably linked to all of the experiences you've had. But then we have this sort of transcendent us, which is better. It's the better us. If only I could. It's the me without the compensation, the trauma, the etc.
Such a good question. We're not, there's sometimes this idea of, the real me that is separate from everybody else. We are penetrated by society. Think of how we're speaking, right? We're using words as we speak to one another. Every one of those words is both spoken by us and was made by other people long before we were even a rumor in anyone's mind, right? We are penetrated by society. Every one of the words that I am using is the result of generations and generations of people who've used those words, refined their meaning, etc., and then given them to me. So that's literally the language. We're permeated by social language. So then the question comes, well, is there anything, that's more me, less me? And I think here, absolutely. And I think that one of the journeys, life's full of journeys. One of the journeys that I think we all are on is to start to separate out a little bit. Well, I can understand there's a lot in me that was just put there by society, by the context in which I was born. Which of those bits do I want to keep or focus on? And which of those bits do not fully represent, my values, my considered choices, etc. And this is where life gets interesting, because people start to say things like, well, where I come from, normal meant ... But the more I think about it, the more I'm reflecting on who I really am, the more I want to ditch that and that and that. It's as a form of editing process.
Self-authorship.
Absolutely. And, I think that the more mature someone is, I'll use that word, I could have used others. The more mature someone is, the more what they do, what they think, the values they hold, owe more to their own work, their own sifting, their own editing, than it does to the context that they were born into. I think, it's interesting, if you look at the arc of a life, right? A very small child is often remarkably authentic, which is why we adults, in small doses at least, have such great time with little ones, because they come out with stuff and you think, oh my God, I can't believe they've just said that thing. They've just said that Granny's nose is too big, or that this restaurant's boring, or this very expensive thing is a load of rubbish, etc. They'll come out with stuff that is non-normative. And that's very interesting, because as an adult, you recognize a kind of, you recognize your own spontaneity that's been lost normally. So it's kind of bittersweet. You think, oh, you don't want exactly the child's version of it, because that would lead you into trouble, but you want an adult version, and it's very hard to get. And probably the high watermark of the opposite is when you're 14 and a half and you're at school, and your most fervent wish is to be like everybody else. You want your parents to be like everybody else. You want your name to be like everybody else. You want your appearance, your haircut, etc. You cannot bear difference. And then slowly, you individuate, and that's a very exciting journey. Seeing, I don't think anyone individuates in all areas. So I think the first choice is, what are the areas that matter a lot to you? I'm interested in individuation, but when it comes to clothes, you might have noticed, I kind of, it's a really interesting area, but I'm just leaving that one for another time. I'm just not engaging with that. Similarly, food, fascinating area, very interesting. Yeah, not quite on my radar yet, but other areas, what I'm reading, very, opinionated, very individual. So I don't think all of us can do it in all areas, but we choose. And that's also part of what makes someone an individual